800 bodies lie scattered around a frozen lake, 16,500 feet up in the Indian Himalayas. Every spring, when the snow melts, their bones become visible again. Skulls, ribs, femurs, exposed on the shoreline of a lake barely 40 meters across. For decades, scientists believed they knew exactly what happened here. A 2019 DNA study proved that story incomplete. This is the hidden history of Roopkund, the lake where one mystery was solved, only to reveal a second one underneath it. Roopkund Lake sits in the Garhwal region of Uttarakhand, India, at an altitude of approximately 5,029 meters. It is small, a glacial lake roughly 40 meters in diameter, frozen for most of the year, located in the Trishul Massif of the Himalayas. It lies along the route of the Nanda Devi Raj Jat, a pilgrimage trail that takes devotees on a journey through the mountains every 12 years. The remains were discovered in 1942 by a British forest ranger on routine patrol. He reported scattered human bones around the lakeshore and in the shallow water beneath the ice. The discovery was not made public until the late 1950s, when an Indian radio broadcaster who visited the site described it as a scene that, in his words, made visitors catch their breath. For the next several decades, nobody knew who these people were, when they had died, or how they had ended up at one of the most inaccessible locations in the entire Himalayan range. The early theories ranged from the plausible to the speculative. Some believed the remains belonged to Japanese soldiers who died attempting to cross the Himalayas during the Second World War. Others pointed to General Zorawar Singh of Kashmir, who led a military campaign into Tibet in 1841 and whose forces were said to have been lost in a Himalayan storm on the return journey. Still others proposed an epidemic, a mass ritual, or simple death by exposure. None of these theories were tested. For 60 years, Roopkund Lake remained a story without an investigation. By the way, if you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who finds the hidden side of history fascinating. If you want more stories like this, hit subscribe. New episode every week. Now, back to Roopkund. The first real forensic breakthrough came in 2004. A team of researchers traveled to the lake and conducted a detailed examination of the skeletal remains for the first time. What they found ruled out almost every theory that had circulated for 60 years. There were no sword marks, no evidence of battle wounds, no indication of disease consistent with an epidemic. Instead, the researchers found something specific and strange. Many of the skulls showed clean, round fractures. The pattern was consistent across multiple individuals. The damage appeared on the crown of the skull, not the sides or the back, which meant the injury had come from directly above. The 2004 team concluded that the most likely explanation was a sudden and severe hailstorm, one producing ice stones large enough to cause fatal blunt force trauma to anyone caught in the open at high altitude with no shelter available. Radiocarbon dating placed the deaths at approximately 800 CE, suggesting the victims were a group of pilgrims, men and women, accompanied by local porters, traveling the Nanda Devi route roughly 12 centuries ago, all killed in a single catastrophic event. The theory fit the evidence. It fit the local folklore as well. For generations, residents of the region had told a story about a royal procession that angered the mountain goddess Nanda Devi, who responded by raining death down upon the travelers from the sky. Whether or not the legend and the science were describing the same event, the two explanations lined up in a way that felt, for the first time, like Roopkund's mystery had finally been resolved. By the mid-2000s, Skeleton Lake had its answer. Pilgrims, hail. One event, 800 CE. That answer held for roughly 15 years. In August 2019, A team of 28 researchers from institutions across India, the United States, and Europe published a study in the journal Nature Communications that overturned the single event theory completely. The team extracted genome-wide ancient DNA from 38 individual skeletons recovered from Roopkund, the first ancient DNA analysis of its kind ever conducted in India. The results did not confirm what everyone expected. They revealed something nobody had anticipated. The 38 skeletons did not belong to one genetically uniform population. They clustered into 3 distinct ancestral groups. 23 individuals carried ancestry consistent with present-day South Asian populations, the group that matched the original 9th century Pilgrim theory. But a further 14 individuals carried ancestry typical of the Eastern Mediterranean, and 1 individual showed ancestry related to Southeast Asia. Radiocarbon dating of these 3 groups revealed the detail that changed everything. The 23 individuals with South Asian ancestry dated to approximately 800 CE, consistent with the original Hailstorm theory, though the researchers found evidence that even this group had been deposited at the lake across more than one event, not a single incident. But the individuals with Eastern Mediterranean ancestry dated to approximately 1800 CE, roughly 1,000 years later than the first group. Stable isotope analysis of the bones confirmed the genetic findings. The 2 main groups showed distinctly different dietary profiles, consistent with people who had lived in different regions, eaten different foods, and existed in different centuries, not people who had died together in a single storm. The skeletons at Roopkund Lake were not the remains of one tragedy. They were the remains of at least 2, separated by approximately 1,000 years, involving people from genetically distinct populations on opposite sides of the ancient world. This raises a question the 2019 study could not fully answer. What were people of Eastern Mediterranean ancestry doing at a remote glacial lake in the Indian Himalayas roughly 2 centuries ago, a location with no historical record of European or Mediterranean travel, no documented expedition, and no obvious reason for a group of outsiders to be present at all? The researchers proposed possibilities: traders on an unrecorded route, a group of travelers who became disoriented at extreme altitude, or visitors connected to the colonial-era movement of people through the region. None of these explanations have been confirmed. The presence of a Mediterranean ancestry group at Roopkund around 1800 CE remains, in the words of the study's own findings, a result that raises more questions than it answers. What had looked, in 2004, like a fully solved mystery? Pilgrims, hail, one event, one explanation, turned out, in 2019, to be 2 separate mysteries layered on top of each other. The Hailstorm explanation likely still accounts for the deaths of the 9th century South Asian group. It accounts for nothing involving the second group, separated from the first by 1,000 years and an ocean's worth of genetic distance. Roopkund Lake still sits at 5,029 meters, exactly where it has always been. The bones still surface every spring when the snow melts, exactly as they have for at least 12 centuries. The pilgrimage route still passes nearby, much as it did when the first group of travelers died there in 800 CE. What has changed is the certainty. For most of the 20th century, Roopkund was an unexplained mystery. For roughly 15 years following 2004, it was a solved one. Today, following the genetic evidence published in 2019, it is something more honest than either, a partially explained mystery, with one group's fate reasonably well understood, and a second group's presence at one of the most remote locations on Earth, still completely unaccounted for. 800 bodies, one lake, two separate tragedies, 1,000 years apart, and a question about who the second group were and why they were there that science has not yet answered. Look around. History is everywhere. As always, see you in the past.